Welcome to the Passionpreneur Experience, where I examine the thoughts, energy, and strategy a side hustler needs to grow their entrepreneurial dreams, all while they work their corporate 9-to-5 day job. I'm your host, Bridget Cobb. Now let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Passionpreneur Experience. Really excited to have you guys here. Been doing lots of skiing. In fact, hopefully by the time this has come out, I will have just taken an amazing week-long ski trip. We are so bad at planning vacations. I actually have the time, Mike and I have the time booked, but we have not actually booked the actual, which ski lodge we're going to. We have the time requested to leave work, but yeah. We're a little bit behind. But we're going. We love skiing. I'm probably blue run intermediate, not flash by any means, but I do love it. So I'm very excited for that trip. And by the time you hear this, I will come back and tell you how I did. Hopefully I don't have a broken ankle or something. We'll see. Speaking of, that's very timely around this topic. What I'm going to talk about today is the fear of failure. So not even necessarily failure itself, but the fear of failure. And failure is such a hot topic always, I think, for entrepreneurs. Which is why I think it was such a great idea. I went to one of my favorite networking events. It's a women's networking event here in Seattle called the F-Bomb Breakfast Club. Absolutely love it. If you live in Seattle and you own your own business, it's worth getting up at the butt crack of dawn to get down to Seattle, downtown. 7 a.m. start, first Friday of the month. Incredible group of women, amazing resources, all different types of businesses. And I get a powerful connection out of the group every single time I go. So, little shout out to the F-Bomb Breakfast Club. But anyway, they decided to start the year by bringing in this amazing panel of women who specialized in both coaching and mentoring. And in this event, they had some open questions. So there was probably, 150 women there, 100 women. They would ask a question. We'd break into small groups. We'd discuss the question, and then we'd go on to the next question. And it was about, setting 2020 goals and our plans, how we were going to get there, what kind of help we needed. Before the session was out, though, and that part was powerful and just fantastic. This is the first Friday of every month. So this is like January, beginning of the year. You've got your whole exciting goal set ahead of you. But before the session was out, they opened up a Q&A session across the panel. So we could ask the panel any question we wanted. And one woman stood up and her question was, how do I get rid of my fear of failure? And I really loved the response that one of the panelists gave. And that kind of started me down a path of reflection around fear and how that comes up for us as passionpreneurs and entrepreneurs, and how we're really good at identifying our fears and even better at kind of willing them away or wanting to admonish the fear, get rid of the fear, ignore the fear. But I started to think, is that really beneficial? Does it actually make us better entrepreneurs if we are fearless? And that started to cause me to reflect on some of I feel the most powerful and impactful thoughts around fear that I've heard. And I wanted to share those with you around some of the different people and organizations that I follow and their philosophies on fear. And see what you might be able to take away from this, because I know it's been impactful for me in terms of how I approach fear in my own business and in my corporate setting. So let's have a look at this. I'm going to start with Brooke Castillo. Now, I've talked about Brooke Castillo before on the show. I'm pretty sure. If I haven't, I would be surprised. But I've been following Brooke for a few years now, maybe 3-4 years, since I moved back to the U.S., And I love Brooke Castillo because she is very thought-based. So all of her approach comes around being thought conscious, understanding your thoughts and how that impacts your feelings, actions, and results, which I strongly identify with. And Brooke's stance on fear is that, fear is an emotion, and as human beings, we are designed to experience the full range of available emotions throughout our lifetime. And emotions range everything from extreme happiness to sadness to fear to anxiety to feelings of neutrality. Everything in between. That's how we were designed as a human species to experience these feelings. And fear in particular was there to keep us alive. So she often talks about how, this was to keep us from being eaten from saber-toothed tigers. We knew what to be fearful of. We knew that was what was more powerful than us or what might want to eat us. And so we feared those things, we stayed away from them, and that kept us alive. All right, so that fear really served a purpose. But now that we are no longer afraid of being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, fear has evolved, and it shows up in different ways. And now we find that it can potentially hold us back from and take the form of deep-seated limiting beliefs. And so it could be a limiter, but it could also be a lifesaver in that it could prompt a gut feeling to say, I'm not sure about that. It helps us evaluate risk and say, okay, that might be too much. That might put me in danger. That might put my business in danger, my customer in danger if I take that route. And so it can be a very helpful flag. So her point is, if you abolish the feeling and you refuse to feel fear, you're unbalanced now as a human, because we are able to feel emotions and appreciate emotions because we've got the yin and yang. We feel the balance. We feel what it means to be truly comfortable and safe because we understand what it feels like to be fearful and unsafe. We understand what it feels like to be happy because we understand and have felt sadness. So we've got that balance of both, and they both serve their purposes. What we need to do as humans, and now that we have evolved with such powerful brains, is understand we feel the feeling, it's there, but what do we think about it? How does it impact us in the long run to say, I'm fearful of that, I wonder why? And understand that feeling is controlled by a thought that we're having, and that we have control over the thought. And so if we want to change the feeling, we can. All right, so it's part of the human experience. Not every single day of our lives is going to be happy, skipping through the roses, wonderful. That part of being human is feeling all the feelings, all right? And that includes fear. So it's natural, it's normal. Fear is going to come up. What do you do with it? And that's kind of, in a nutshell, how Brooke Castillo approaches fear. The second one I want to talk about is IPEC, which IPEC is the coaching school that I got certified through. It's an ICF accredited coaching school, and which is the International Coaching Federation. And I went through and got my certification, certified professional coaching certification through them. So one of the philosophies, or the main philosophy of IPEC, is around energy. And you hear me talk about energy often in the podcast. So in their philosophy, emotions are really just different forms of energy in our body. So when you think about it, if you picture a ball of energy and just think of this bright ball of fizzling energy that is in your chest and it's rattling around, that energy will often be given a name. And depending on how it makes me feel, and I might name it as fear, and I can feel it in there bouncing around. What we would be doing with the coaching aspect of it is saying, okay, you feel it, you've named it, now let's get curious about it. Why is it that you feel fearful? Where did that thought come from that you're identifying that fear with some negative aspect? And is it really true? And, if we start to think about energy in, go back into Albert Einstein's realm of energy and other great physicists that I did not look up and verify who would have said this, but that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, that it's constant. Can we take a look at energy and transfer it? So now that we've got that energy balled up and we're thinking, I'm calling this fear, and it's there and it's visceral and I can feel it, can I take that same energy and shift it to something more constructive, like a form of excitement or anticipation, which may show up as the same type of fizzy, bubbly, bright energy, but now we're using it more intentionally to drive forward with anticipation or excitement. And if I can change the shape and what that energy transform it, how would it affect my results? Could I use that same energy constructively? And so what the IPEC philosophy kind of does is take a look at how we show up energetically. What kind of energy do we normally have bouncing around inside of us as a default? And then getting conscious about it, understanding, okay, this is how I show up. This is kind of my energetic profile. I naturally lend towards feeling a bit more victimized, or I naturally lend towards having this urge to help others. And that's kind of how I feed off, that's that energy transfer that I really enjoy. And then saying what works for me, what doesn't, and can I start shifting that energy into different places? The energy doesn't get destroyed, it gets transferred. It gets moved up or down depending on what serves you and what serves your customer, your client at the end of the day. So I love that thought of I don't need to destroy the fear. I don't need to destroy that energy. I need to transfer it. I need to move it into a different echelon. I need to use it more constructively. And I can take that and do that on my own accord. And then full circle, coming back to F-Bomb Breakfast Club and the panel, there was a woman, her company's called Gratitude 6. Her name is Lena Meyer. She is the founder of Gratitude 6. And I loved her response to how do I get rid of my fear of failure? And I thought it really circled back around nicely with some of these other philosophies. And that her philosophy here is that fear is not an emotion that needs to be banished, but rather acknowledged and utilized to your advantage. So it was a very similar concept to IPEC and even Brooke Castillo. But she even kind of took the step of saying, fear's okay. I don't need to transform it into another type of energy. I need to hold on to the fear, but I'm actually going to shift it towards something much more positive. Like, instead of being fearful of pushing my message out into the world, what if I was fearful of not pushing my message out to the world? What if I had such a strong belief about my mission and how I felt that mission would change people's lives that I was fearful of not putting that message out because it could change, in her words, 1 life, 2 lives, 1 million lives. All right, so I'm more fearful of holding that message back because it could stop that momentum and change that you want to affect in the world than being fearful of putting the message out and experiencing failure and what that might mean to you or letting that imposter syndrome set in. So I really liked that kind of flip on its head of saying fear can be very useful, but let me turn it towards something like being fearful about not making the impact that I truly want to make. And then saying, I'm confident in this mission. I'm confident in my message. And I'm going to push it out. Even if it takes me a bit of time to perfect it, and it's going to evolve and it's going to change. If I don't evolve and change, then I can't make the impact I want to make in the world. I can't see the change that I'm hoping to see, which is why I'm doing all of this in the first place. So hold on. She's holding on to that fear to say, no, I have to go through these bumps and bruises along the way, because if I don't, then I won't see the change in the world that I'm so desperate to see. And that's worth it. I'll take those lumps. I'll take those learnings so that I can see that change in the world. So I really liked that approach of, once again, in all of these philosophies, it's not about squashing the feeling. It's not about eliminating it. In some cases, it's about holding on to it, but redirecting. Sometimes it's about transforming it into a different type of energy, or even saying, you know what, I give myself permission to feel this feeling because it's part of the human experience. And so I acknowledge that, I normalize it, and I move on. Because sometimes that fear, that feeling of fear is there to protect us. And say, you know what? I'm a little bit fearful of jumping into this contract with this person that's approached me. Something's not sitting with me right. Something's feeling off. And if that fear trigger is going up, maybe I need to do a little bit more investigating, because I'm not sure this is right for ultimately my audience, my customer. Maybe it's not right for me and my business. So it can really still serve in some way that saber-toothed tiger experience by triggering our gut instinct or a gut feeling. All right, so to kind of recap here, the real challenge is being conscious of fear as it arrives and ensuring that you're in control of the thoughts you have about that fear. What does it mean? Get curious, dig a little bit deeper, and truly understand why it's there. If it's a fear that I'm realizing it's there because I actually feel inadequate, or I'm unsure, or my imposter syndrome's kicking in, then first of all, congratulations that you identified it. Now you can do something about those thoughts. If you find, you know what, it's actually because I knew I read some financial reports from that collaborator and I don't like some of the decisions they've made in their business. This is wrong for me, and I'm going to trust my gut on that. I'm going to follow that and do what's right for me and my business. All right, so acknowledge, get curious, and use the energy to your advantage so that you can really start reestablishing that relationship you have with fear in 2020. All right, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for joining me on the Passionpreneur Experience. If you guys have a topic that's near and dear to your heart in the Passionpreneur Experience space, so as you manage and grow and launch your own entrepreneurial business while you work a full-time 9-to-5, give me a shout. You can you can hit me up, go to my website and contact me directly through that. Or you can go to the podcast and leave a review. I read all the reviews, obviously, again and again. And I would love to hear some suggestions. My other thought also is, I do release Instagram posts that go along with the podcast episodes. So that's a great place to leave me a shout out as well. You can follow me at Bridget Cobb Coaching and get all of those posts that correspond directly with the episode of the week. That's all I've got for you guys today. Look forward to seeing you back here next week on the Passionpreneur Experience.
Are you building your side hustle business all on your own? Well, you don't have to. Engaging with and being accountable to a supportive community will increase your productivity and keep you on track. Join my private Facebook community, the Passionpreneur Experience, and connect with like-minded side hustlers just like you. Head to the show notes now for a link to the group and start building the business of your dreams.